In this session, we will try to uncover more complex JDBC sample project shipped out of the box from TIBCO. And this is TIBCO Designer, which is used to develop and design TIBCO BusinessWorks flows. And on the left-hand side, you'll see the project panel, global variables, tester, palettes available. And on the project panel, you'll see the project files. And we have two processes. We will try to uncover one at a time. And the process in subsets, imagine a situation where in real time you have to query a database table and process all the available records in that database. So you can use the JDBC query activity to fetch the records from the database. And if you see here on the configuration tab, you have max rows set. In this case, it is 100, which means that it will fetch 100 rows from the specified table. In this case, it says SRC order table. And in real time, you need to process all the records available in this database table. And how do you do that? You do not have the number of rows available in that database, and it's possible that you can count the records from the database using some database tool, but that table might get updated in real time by some users, and you need to process them. For example, you queried the database to see how many records are available. Say, for example, you have 1,000 records and you set it as 1,000 in max rows. So, which will fetch all the 1,000 records. But somebody updated the database table with some 100 records more. So, you will not know that information. So, you have to design a process which will fetch all the records available from the table without you even knowing how many records are available. And how do you design that? And the next use case for this process design is, for example, you have 100,000 rows. You cannot set your max rows to 100,000 because that might have some performance degradation issues. So you have to process them in batches. So this is another use case where you have to consider max rows to be in a reasonable level. And in this case, we will stick to 100. And how to design this process is to use the subset size. For example, this global variable, which is coming from subset size here, 5. So this this subset size is overriding the max rows here. So if you define the subset size here, first of all, this subset size will be showing up here when you select process in subsets. And when you deselect it and apply, this subset size will be gone. So when we run the select query, it will fetch 100 rows max. When we click this process in subset, then in the input tab, it will ask for subset size. And we set it through a global variable, and the subset size here is 5, which means that this query will fetch 5 records at a time. It will ignore the max rows 100 here. The input tab subset size takes precedence over the max rows, and you will get the records here. And how do we know that we have processed all the records? Is this last subset will be coming as true when this query executes for the last time. And that's when we know that we have processed all the records from the table, in this case, SRC order table. And here we have to use the grouping mechanism in order for this query to be iterated multiple times until the last subset comes as true. And for this, the group action we use is repeat until true. And the condition here is until the last subset comes as true, this query has to repeat. So for all the rest of the cases, this last subset will come as false, and for the last subset, it will come as true, and that's when the group will exit. And here, this is a simple write file, writing some output file with all the records that is fetching from the database. This is basically mimicking some real-time scenario, what business logic you're implementing using the database records from this table. So we will first try to run this example before we go to the batch updates process. And before we do that, we have certain pre-tasks to be completed, which is creating this table in our local database. Here I have, and this is the SQL query to drop the table just in case if it is already created, and then create the new table called SRC order table. I'll run these both queries at a time. Okay, first the drop table doesn't exist, and that's fine, and create table is created here. And then let me go to the next table, which is actually used in the batch update process, I believe. I'm yet to check the details, but I'll create the table beforehand we go to the batch update process. I will create this one. The table is created, and let's go to the designer. Here I will open the console, clear the console, and start this process in subset. Hold on, my bad. I need to set the connection, JDBC connection. This is something which is preset by TIBCO. I need to change it to my local connection. This is my JDBC URL. And username is system. Give the password and apply and test the JDBC connection. 1 second. Oracle then I paste the URL. I think this is in the right format. Host name, colon port, colon instance name. This is looking fine to me. Test connection again. Okay, it got connected. Test connection successful. Click OK and then go to the process and subsets. Invoke the tester. Use load and start current process. And this is the file which is getting created. The processInSubsets output file is in C drive. I don't see the file getting created. Let me see what's going on here. Okay, I think I missed to insert the records given. So select star doesn't have any records in it. I need to insert some records here, which I missed. Run all of these at once and commit. And now try to rerun the select here. So we have data in the table this time. And let me rerun this process. This time I got an error in the right file. Okay, it says the C process in subset.txt was not found. I will select this option, create non-existing directories, which will make sure if the file is not available, it will create it. And I will stop it and rerun the process. I think the C drive is causing issues. I'll try to put this output file in a temp folder instead of the drive itself. It might have some permission issues with the C drive directly. So I will create a temp folder and then put the file inside that. And this time it should work. Okay, looks like it went through. Now let me go to my C drive and see some temp folder got created and my output file got created. Let me open this file in Notepad, and these are the 15 records which we have in the database that we inserted in the earlier step. So column number 15, which means 15 records from the database, are processed in subsets of 5. This is how we should deal with a large chunks of data. If, for example, we have 100,000 or probably a million records in the database, we cannot crash the process by fetching all rows at a time using this max rows. We set this at a million, then this will have performance degradation issues. So this is how we should process in subsets. So we can certainly increase the subset size. This is a sample, and we have only 15 records in total, and that is the reason we set the subset size at 5. But for example, if you have million records and if you are sure that your process or resources you have can handle 5,000 records at a time, then you can certainly set it to 5,000. Now, the next process is about batch updates. So we have in real time, in several different situations, we have certain requirements where we have to insert a lot of data from some upstream which is coming through. And for example, we have 100 records or 1,000 records coming from our upstream, and we have to insert all of them at once. So we have to use the JDBC update to insert, and we can use this batch update setting to insert multiple records. So here, if you see, we are querying the database source database table, and then we are updating it into destination uh, order table. And here, if you see, the record is for each, and we are using the output from the query source table and mapping all the records for each. For example, if I remove this batch update and see here, as soon as I remove it, the record is not getting iterated, which means that if we remove the batch update, we can only insert one record at a time. So for batch update, we have to select this option. And as soon as I select, then a record is able to take multiple records at once, and we have for each from the source table. And this is some write file which is echoing how many updates we did. And the next step is to query the database and fetching max 100 rows, and then for each record it is creating an output file. So let's see. And it is not creating an output file for each record. It is appending the content for each record in the same file. And let's see how that works. And here also we have the batch update output file in C drive. So in order not to have permission issues to C drive, we will just write this file to the temp folder inside C drive. So now let me not rerun, run this batch updates process and see what happens here. So query source table, we have got 15 records, and then batch update. We are trying to update the order date to current date, and rest of them are as is. And then we have the output file in the batch update. The number of updates are 15. We will take a look at the batch updates text file in a minute. And then we have fetched the records from the destination order table, and we have all the records fetched from that table, and then we are trying to append the result record, each record in this batch update.txt file. Let me open the batch update file here in the notepad, and we have all the 15 records inserted with the date to it. And then the first one is how many updates we did for this table, which is 15. And this is how we deal with large chunks of data in a database, whether to insert uh, large chunks of data which is coming from upstream in a batch update. You have to use batch update option available on JDBC update. And if we have to fetch all the records from our table and process it, then we cannot use the macros. We have to use the processInSubsets option, and then set the subset size, and then process in chunks. And I'll stop here and continue.